Welcome back to the Avionics Lab. As you'll recall, there are three options for the background for the digital cockpit. The first is the visual camera, the second is the infrared camera if you choose the night flying options, and the third is a synthetic vision system that improves your situational awareness in conditions of poorer visibility and extreme terrain. So we developed the pass-through layer a while ago. We've got the visual camera layers working as well. You've all seen the standard background. The last of the layers that we've been developing is the synthetic vision system. So I'm here now with Eric, and we'll show you how we've been implementing the first of the demonstrators for our very own synthetic vision system. So Eric, why don't you talk us through what we've got operating on the simulator here?
Absolutely. So on the foreground, of course, we have our standard primary flight display instruments. In the background, as Jason mentioned, we can select between the camera feed or just the normal basic artificial horizon or the synthetic vision layer as I'm showing here. So here we have this terrain data that's been brought into the system and processed, and it's just showing this 3D terrain, and then it's doing coloring the terrain based off of the relative altitude of that. So right now it's showing anything that's above you as amber and then red progressively depending on how high it is above you, and then this sort of gray color underneath you. And that's something that we have a lot more tuning and experimentation to do with the color schemes, and then in the future we need to figure out how to add obstacles and other data on top of that to give you as much information as possible.
Smash it. And again, this is just an aid to situational awareness. It's not an IFR system.
That's right.
But it is one of the options that we said would be available for the DigiCockpit if people select it. So in terms of the data source at the moment, where's the data that we're using coming from right now?
So currently, this is just coming from the European Space Agency, their Copernicus data set. There's a few. There's the U.S. shuttle radar topology mission. There's a few different data sets that we have to choose from. So ultimately, we'll have a certified data set that comes from a company that they go through, and they give you basically a global data set that has everything that's been checked, and there aren't any voids or gaps in any of the data sets. So it's continuous around the globe essentially. So.
And then the plan as it stands at the moment is to migrate towards the Jeppesen data set, is it, for the
That's right, yeah, that's what I was speaking
version.
of, yes.
Yeah. Great stuff. And then in terms of the additional layers to go on here, you've got the terrain in there at the moment. We're playing with the colours and the rendering to suit the DigiCockpit aesthetic. But then we've got major obstacles and wires to go in on top of that.
That's right. And it's a tricky task because, as you can imagine, there's a lot of the terrain. Once you know the altitude, it's something that is just rendering that essentially. Of course, if you're wanting to do textures, which actually show the different texture of the ground, whether it's trees or rock or whatever, that's more complicated, which is something we're not doing at the moment. When you bring in obstacles, there's a lot more variety into how those are rendered, so it's something we want to do really well and need to make sure that it's not misleading in any way. So whether it's a wire or a tower or a building, whatever it might be, it needs to be very carefully thought through in terms of how we handle the pipeline of the data, and then obsolescence or if things go out of date, but then also how we render the data that we do have.
So there's a big operation in data checking and validity on top of the task of making the software and the hardware work. Okay, great. So at the moment you're running this on a PC hosted system with endless supplies of compute power. How does this work on our target hardware that you've been developing for the aircraft?
Surprisingly well. In fact, we can go over there and have a look right now.
Smash in, let's have a look.
Here we have the same system running on target hardware, achieving about 50 frames per second at least for both the synthetic vision and the primary flight display instruments. And so we have the basic function working. From here, there's some optimizing that can be done in terms of level of detail. Obviously, when you have a global data set, you don't want to render the whole world at all times. So you have to basically isolate your specific area that you're in, and then the level of detail that you want for areas that are really close to you needs to be higher, and then as you get further away, you can reduce that level of detail gradually so that things on the horizon, you don't need full resolution for that. So just some things to do with that, which will probably take some time to do well, but at least we've got a basic proof of concept going to help us in getting our hardware development complete.
And you've still got plenty of headroom left in the hardware for growth in the future, and there's an extendable series of these processors.
Yeah, we've got
as well,
we've
so
got
we
some
can-
headroom.
Yeah.
It's a fairly powerful embedded system that we're using, so I'm confident it'll be able to do everything that we need it to do.
Great stuff. So that's synthetic vision. That's the last of the three main backdrops that we've been developing for DigiCockpit. So now essentially almost a full feature set as advertised when we started. So a little bit more development to do, lots of testing to do, but there's HX50's synthetic vision system.